everybody may not agree with the way, the story was told or what have you. But at the end of the day, we all can agree that the behavior itself of what occurred was not appropriate. Therefore, the outcome, you can't do appropriate or inappropriate behavior and then want to choose the outcome or the consequences that come from that behavior. The bottom line is just don't do the behavior so you can avoid whatever consequences that may come your way.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think the bottom line is that we can't justify irresponsible behavior. So when you're doing something and in a process, whether your intent was one thing or another, when you're being irresponsible, that is sometimes the outcome of irresponsible behavior, is that people get hurt. Like even when we justify fighting, like that's a big, like kids don't understand or teens don't understand or people in the middle of a situation, you start fighting, the intent may not be to kill somebody, but when you're fighting you can punch somebody, in the head some way, and kill them. So all of these are outcomes that could potentially happen. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, okay, you're in a car with a gun that that is unregistered. So right there, you already know that you're in the wrong with that, right? And then you take it out. You're drunk, which is another red flag. And then you take it out and you shoot it. So whether your intent was to scare her or you didn't mean to do it, the bottom line is that someone got injured. So if nothing else, at the end of the day, he should be held accountable for that.
it's like going outside and shooting a gun in the air and then the bullet ends up killing somebody or hitting someone. And it's like at some
Mhm.
Yeah.
point
So
you have
we
to
absolutely,
understand
because
that
like,
like you, and I don't even think he was legally able to have the gun in his possession.
No, he
No?
wasn't.
Mhm.
absolutely no, he
So
wasn't. So
Right? No,
I
he wasn't, right? And I
I
guess that's just a
absolutely.
testament to
So
the
this
whole
is
reason why
this
he
is what
shot the gun.
we do this a lot, and this is what I was trying to like steer the conversation off of a little bit. Where everything you're saying, I agree with. I'm not here
Mhm.
caping for Tory Lanez. I personally wouldn't want my daughter hanging with somebody like that. I wouldn't put myself in a situation to be in that type of environment where
Or
things like that
Kelsey.
can happen. But we do this thing, especially with black people, where we always give a moral purity test, right? But we're talking about something that has real legal implications. So just because it involves a black woman and just because the defendant is a black man, now all of a sudden our assumptions must be over the law, right? So that's what I'm saying. What was he charged with? Can they prove it? That's
that's why
what
I
I'm
asked.
saying.
No, I
Yeah.
asked that in the beginning. I asked that. Can we
Can they
read exactly
prove
what
it?
the
And I
charges
don't
was?
believe they did. That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with the morality of the situation. Everybody was wrong and messed up in that car. Tory Lane should not. You should not be with women in any kind of situation involving a gun. Like you shot, like possibly shooting it. The whole situation
Yeah,
screwed up, right?
it's
Okay,
black
But yeah, go
shooting
ahead.
women. That shit is
uh,
crazy.
I I just want to jump in real quick because somebody pulled a gun. I don't know the facts of the case, but here's what happened. Somebody pulled a gun. Somebody had shards of gun or shrapnel or whatever in their foot. Somebody had to get stitches. He was charged with assault with a semi-automatic firearm, possession of a concealed, unregistered firearm, negligent discharge of a firearm. Went to court. Whether we believe he did it or not is if we're not on the jury is irrelevant. The jury found him guilty. That to me is the end of it. In regards to the gender war, I don't think that it was that particular case that started a gender war. That goes back much further than 2020, right? 2020.
Mhm.
The internet gave men and finally men were able to get a voice. And ever since we've had that voice, we've been getting pushback from women in regards to how we use that voice. And one of the examples I like to use is when Ice Cube went and spoke at the table with those with I don't even remember the four women, and they attacked him because he didn't have anything in the plan for Black America with that
It was
specifically
the
said
Foxhole
women.
group with Vivica
It absolutely insane to me. But finally men got the option to speak out and speak up. For years, and I'm talking what 5 decades, black men specifically have been losing their power, especially inside of the black family. Once the black family was broken up, basically I'd say the family was lost, but the community was lost. Now we're in a place to where black men are able to speak out about these things and say, hey, we need you to get in line or get out of the way. And I think that's more or less what the war is. It had nothing to do with Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion, two people I don't even listen to. And I'd probably argue that most of the people up here on this panel don't even listen to these people. Like it started before them. They weren't a catalyst, they weren't a catapult, they weren't anything but a blip in the radar of a black man being found guilty of assaulting a black woman. That's really what happened in this case. And since we're not on the jury, and regardless if we think that there is doubt, the jury thought without beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. So I mean, he did it. He must face the consequences. Of course, I'm sure he'll appeal. He'll end up with something light, and that'll be, once that's run its course, that'll be the end of it. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think this is part of, I guess, that goes back to kind of the title, is that a lot of times on both ends, women and men both, in the Black community, is that we try to justify and support dysfunctional behavior instead of calling it what it is. Like this situation, everybody may not agree with the way, the story was told or what have you. But at the end of the day, we all can agree that the behavior itself of what occurred was not appropriate. Therefore, the outcome, you can't do appropriate or inappropriate behavior and then want to choose the outcome or the consequences that come from that behavior. The bottom line is just don't do the behavior so you can avoid whatever consequences that may come your way. And like even the other day, I was watching a thing. What is the name of the girl who tried to start the slut walk, and she used to be a stripper? Amber Rose, and was trying to justify, about strippers, like women being able to strip, let them make their money, leave them alone, stop policing their bodies, and blah blah blah. Like, because a guy was trying to say, listen, this isn't the way to do that. They shouldn't do that. But, and then here we have women trying to justify that behavior. And I think that's the problem, is a lot of times we get caught up in trying to justify behavior that's not a benefit to any of us. And that's what we need to stop. We need to call out, regardless men or women, if the behavior isn't going to benefit us as a whole, then we need to check it.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I absolutely agree. Does anybody else have anything to say about this?
I got a question. Do y'all think if he was sentenced to the maximum of 20 years, knowing what you heard in that from what we hearing, do you think that's a fair sentence if he got sentenced to the max? I don't think he's gonna get the max, but
hell no.
Yeah, no, that's a bit much.
I think that would be, the punishment doesn't necessarily
fit that crime. I think that, I don't think that would be overboard, a lot overboard.